The question was, these Instagram names, Kurt
Don't worry about it.
Whatever.
Kurt Cobain.
He writes, if I can read my own writing, which I did earlier when I did the intro. This may be my interpretation, but it seems like talking about PEDs is very taboo, hush hush, or just a sensitive topic in general. Why is this the case?
Because it's illegal?
Yeah. Do you think social media has impacted this in any way? So in other words,
first of all,
why do people not talk about steroids?
Well, it's illegal. The point being is, and here's the thing is, Bill Phillips, when he had that underground steroid, what was that, in the probably early 90s?
Yeah, you're going back to the mail order shit, man.
Yeah. And then Muscle Media came out, and they used to have a drug, instead of a athlete profile in the back, they had a drug profile. I remember that, because it was like, this is genius. Yeah. Who's featured this month? I knew it. Anavar, what is this? Chick magazine? And then even when we first started, we were, I wouldn't say broadcasting, but if someone had a question, we were pretty. And then I think I think doesn't get enough credit was Louis, was when that T-Nation article came out in 97, 98, that interview, The Mad Monk of Powerlifting. And I remember reading that, and I'm like, oh my God, finally someone stuck, and it was, so I don't think it's ever been taboo. I don't think it really benefits anyone. And the other thing I don't know, I don't understand this, is if someone says, like, let's say you take stuff, but you don't say anything, and people are like, well, you're misleading. I'm like, first of all, it's none of your business what I do. Like, the narcissism to think that I owe you something is unbelievable to me. Number two is, I remember the first time I saw a bodybuilder, I was in a hotel in Wisconsin, and we didn't have cable growing up, and so this was like, it was like Mr. Olympia or something, and the guy was, doing the pec bounce, and the kid next to me, the family friend's like, Mommy, he's making his titties bounce. And I'm like, oh my God, he said titties. I'll never forget that. I'm like, oh shit, we're all in trouble.
Here we are 20-some years later, 40 years later,
so
titties.
So a couple years later, when I was in junior high, I remember talking to my buddy Tom, and we knew it. Like, it's pretty easy to figure out. Like, I've seen a lot of, even, I was 6th grade at the time. I remember this because we were at a dance. He's like, man, steroids sound awesome. I'm like, well, you have no idea. And I remember when you see those, like the giants, I knew that wasn't normal. And I have heard whisperings of steroids. So I'm like, obviously, like, I put 2 and 2 together at a young age before it was common to know. And I think it's very funny how, like, you don't think young kids can figure this out? I mean, they're looking at porn when they're 10. You don't think, like, that's the only thing we shield the kids from is this testosterone shit.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a weak excuse. And the other thing is, you're not owed, I don't think anyone owes you a thing. I think that entitlement and narcissism is disgusting to me. And that's a very small issue. I just, like, who cares? And we've been deceived, like, we've been deceived all through this pandemic. Like, you think steroids is the big thing? Oh my God, it's selling extra creatine. It's like, no, it's not bad for you.
Yeah.
So
I look at this a few different ways, because
I don't know about the social media thing. I don't follow steroids.
Well, I've always kind of had the stance of, I don't want to be the person that's going to push, let's say it's one of your kids, right? So you got a 16-year-old, 15-year-old kid, makes his way out here, is talking to me on the weekend, talking about drugs. I don't want to be the person that's going to push him to take, or the person that's going to hold him back from taking. That's not my role. That's somebody else's role. And when you are in any position of influence, coach, whatever it's going to be, you have influence. And you have responsibility for that influence. So I don't want to be in that spot, but to go back to what you were saying is, when they're talking about misleading and online and all this other stuff, I like to throw it back on the person who's asking. Like, why do you care if somebody's natty or not? Why do you care that somebody's not talking about steroids or not? Why
is it so important?
Give me your reason why this is important. And then I'll guarantee over 90% of the time, there's no legitimate reason. It's not like this person's contemplating, the pros and cons, if they should, or how widespread it is, and they really kind of want to know. That's never the case. It's always seems to be the case
I already know where you're going with
exactly. That person's bigger than me, so they must be on steroids.
Yeah,
but see, even if you have this conversation about the steroids and say, okay, here's what I've done over X number of years and all this and all that. Let's say you're natural. And we've known people like this. We sponsor people like this. Say you're natural, nobody's going to believe it when you say it. So what's the
benefit
for that person who competes drug free, gets drug tested? What's their positive to be able to come out and say, well, the people will say, well, they would be a great ambassador, a great representative for other drug-free people. Till assholes like you say that he's not fucking natural, and do natty or not saying that he's not fucking natural. So now we're right back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So what benefit? Or then what's the benefit to the person who is transparent? Say they're taking 2 grams a week. And they lay out, okay, I'm taking test, I'm taking trying, I'm taking this, and they do that, and they happen to be a pro bodybuilder or all-time world record. What's the response to that going to be? I already can tell you what the fuck it's going to be. He takes way more than that. That's bullshit. He is not just taking 4 cc's a test. He's taking. I heard he was taking da 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 da. So no matter what the narrative is or what the answer coming out of the person who was asked
gonna get shot
is.
down.
It's a lie. So what do you want? Do you want something that you're going to call a lie or a misdirection in regards to communication? And because that's what you're going to get, And let's look at the people who are transparent, just out of the blue. The people who are transparent, do they have some special interest in a HRT clinic? Do they have a special interest in
They just so happen to have a link.
Do they have a SARMs discount code? So let's follow the money like everything else and see where that goes. And it's still, why is it anybody, do you want to know my other fucking prescriptions too? What do you want to know?
I have this weird lump on my ball.
I got a bag over here with 6 different prescriptions in it. Should we talk about all those and what I'm on those for? Especially the Xanax, because of assholes like you that are fucking jumping people all the time.
Well, it's true, right? And it's one of those things where they're always looking for the excuse to not give someone credit for working hard to do a thing.
Or an excuse as to why they need to work a little harder.
They're like, well, I'm never going to look like that because I don't take all this shit. Right?
Well, yes, I'll never be that strong. Or if it's not that, it's if I did that.
Right.
If I took that or if I did this. And a lot of times what you find out, and it's odd, but it makes sense. The higher you go up in strength sports or really any sport for that matter, the less you see you would think that the doses are going to be out of hand.
Yeah.
You don't see that at the highest level. And the genetics play
for sure.
It plays a card as well. Not just their sport genetics or skill genetics, but maybe their genetics in regards to how they process. I've seen people take just a couple C's a test.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck? That's not fair. That shit, that's more unfair than the natty or not. Because they're not jabbing enough to be able to get the gains that they're supposed to get.
You're not sore enough to bench 600.
Well, I think just the overall education on the topic is so shitty. I think the overall general knowledge of what that actually entails. Right?
It's there, though. I mean,
they stick you and all of a sudden you're a Hulk.
It's not like we're looking for fucking vaccine information. I mean, all this information is
there.
Out there.
And it's been out there for a while.
It's easy to find. It's not like you got to rely on, and T Nation's got good stuff, so this is not a drag on them in any way, but it's not like you got to rely on T Nation and all these other quasi fitness strength sources for your info. You can go see you can look the studies up. They're right there. I mean,
you're not going to a message board for your testing.
You want to talk about some fucked up corruption, right? So now that I said that, you can't find vaccine studies, right? Here's the better thing. When I was growing up, and first was introduced to testosterone, in the package insert, it said, this will not enhance athletic performance.
That was when I was in college, I took a drug and something class, and that was the official stance of the AMA, that steroids not only not do not increase muscle mass, strength, or athletic performance. And it was like probably 98. And I was like, God, this is like, then why is it banned?
Yeah, and that's why I have so much faith in our medical institution, the FDA, the CDC. Fuckers lied to me about tests when I was fucking 13 years old. Why should I trust them now?
Yeah, and I remember reading that, and I'm like, God, this is really. And that doesn't mean that they're wrong on everything, but that means they're wrong about a lot of stuff, you know. And I just, the older I get, Dave,
that's not just wrong though. That's
yeah.
If we want to go back to the original question, like, why does nobody talk about it? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the fucking FDA said that we weren't supposed to. And, you see what I'm saying? It's like, let's blame it on them. Fuck them.
Yeah.
That was our example.
And that was 1998, you said, Jim?
Yeah, I'm saying it. Yeah.
Holy
They
shit.
still
With the
said it.
package
Yeah.
insert?
No, I'm saying this is like in the
official stance.
The official stance.
Yeah. I remember actually the insert, it was like, this is, because it was funny. It's like, look at this shit.
Meanwhile, you have like Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa just hitting fucking 600 foot nukes.
Steroid testing's over in baseball.
Is it really?
Yeah, they had 20 years, and I think it's official. So next year's going to be awesome.
There you go.
It should just be fucking wide open. That shit would just look like fucking mutant league.
Well, the other thing that I don't think people understand is if you can't take a lot and play baseball. You can't take a lot and play football. You just can't. It has a cutoff point where you're not going to be able to do anything. So I always laugh and like, Mark McGuire was taking 1 gram a week. I'm like, really? You really think Mark, you couldn't swing a bat? He'd be so pumped up. And I was telling Mason, my oldest son, about Barry Bonds. I'm like, I'm not even a baseball fan, but when Bonds was up or playing a game on TV or McGuire and Sosa were
fucking
having
electric.
it was amazing. And Bonds would get up there, and I remember the bases were loaded. Barry Bonds came up, they just fucking walked them. We'll take the one.
100%.
I'd rather just take the one run, and then rather than So
here's another angle I just thought about with this, as you were saying. I don't know why this came to my head. Is they're not asking like if these pro athletes or strength athletes what kind of strain of weed they're smoking.
Yeah,
and that's legal.
Yeah,
right. In most states, that's legal, and it helps with recuperation and recovery. Right.
Well, that's my favorite. He doesn't take steroids for strength. He does it for recovery. I'm like, no one. That's like reading Playboy for the articles.
Yes.
But what I think is kind of interesting that I just learned the other day is that they also test the strength coaches too. Like I was talking to,
Oh boy.
I was talking to a former strength and conditioning coach in Major League Baseball, and they couldn't take, if they got popped, then they would get in trouble.
That certainly doesn't explain why so many of them are weak and out of shape, though.
Right.
I can see, some of the strength coaches that we've seen over the years. No, I can't work out, dude. I got a drug test.
Yeah. Was he in baseball?
Baseball.
Okay. Well, baseball's fucking stupid.
He even anything, like he got popped for anything, he'd get fired.
Wow.
So glad I didn't go down that route.